Hello, CropX dealers. Two important topics today. The first is auto set points. Within the first couple days, the CropX app will auto set the full and refill points for you. Now, a good thing to do to make sure that those are set properly is when you install a sensor in the field, you should take some sort of manual observation of the moisture within the soil. And the reason for this is that if that moisture within the soil is fairly dry, and this is going to be more relevant the further west you go, the less annual precipitation you would receive, the more likely that profile is to be dry when you first put the sensor in the ground. So when you record that manual observation, that is going to help you later determine after the auto set point is set, is if you should raise that full point manually or let the auto set point raise itself after we receive a rainfall or irrigation event. So this auto set point only knows what it knows, meaning the sensor is telling us a certain moisture level, and until something changes, we can't with absolute certainty say that yes, this soil can indeed hold more water than what we are saying now. So until we receive that irrigation or rainfall and we prove that we would see some sort of an irrigation event like this, and then it leveled off like this, and started going like this, yeah, the full point is going to raise to about here. So until that happens, the full point is not going to adjust, and we might actually be underestimating that full point. So that manual observation will help you manually adjust that if needed, or decide if you should wait for the auto set points to let it do it themselves after an irrigation or rain event. Second big topic of today is sensor placement. And when we talk about sensor placement, the golden rule is to make sure that you've got the grower's buy-in when it comes to that location. If they don't trust that location, they're not going to trust the results. So you want to represent that majority of the field as best you can. The CropX app is going to have some suggested locations in the app, but all it's doing, at least within the United States, is saying, here's the Surgo soil zones, here's the biggest one, and here's the middle of it. That's all it's doing. So there's not a lot of fancy logic going into that suggestion at this point. So there is a need to evaluate a location prior to actually going out into the field. So determining that based on these parameters is a better option when you can do it. So if there's any known soil compaction areas, you want to avoid those. That could be an old pivot road, farmstead, harvest traffic, etc. There might be different tillage practices within the field. Maybe they've done a certain practice in one side versus the other, and you need to adjust for that of what would be representing the majority. In terms of crop rotation, what would be representing the majority? The topography. You don't want to put it on the two extremes of the field where it's the lowest or the highest. You wouldn't want to put it anywhere where it's going to accumulate runoff in terms of moisture. Just looking at the irrigation system itself, don't put it in the wheel tracks. That's obviously not where you'd want the sensor. You want to avoid at all costs putting it within those first two spans of the pivot. That pivot's going to likely be overwatering those inner two spans, and generally those middle to outer spans are going to have a more even amount of water being applied. Don't put it under the corner system. Don't put it under the end gun. That's not a good representation of the water being applied to that field. And when it comes to a cornfield specifically, putting it in between two healthy plants, generally within the row, and that's going to happen between V2 and V6. So you need to wait those first couple weeks, 3 weeks after planting, in order to know that that stand is healthy and that that stand is a good representation of the field, and that you can put it in the row in between those plants. Another consideration is just simply the logistics of getting to a location. So while this location we have here, the star might be a good agronomic location, it doesn't look like it would be the easiest one to access. To make it more easy, try to access something from this pivot road or the north or I'm sorry, the east or south roads here. So make it easier on yourself in terms of access.